In most sports, disqualifications happen in real time, with referees making split-second decisions that everyone can see. But golf is different. Did you know a player once got disqualified from a tournament he was leading because a TV viewer emailed officials about a rules violation they spotted? Or that a major champion was once disqualified for signing a scorecard that had the right total but wrong hole-by-hole scores? In this video, I'll break down the most controversial disqualifications in golf history, the technical violations, bizarre circumstances, and questionable rulings that changed tournaments, careers, and in some cases, the rules themselves. These aren't just obscure penalties. They're the pivotal moments that show why golf's honor system can be both its greatest strength and its most glaring weakness. And the most shocking part? Some of these disqualifications happened days after the violation occurred, completely changing results that players and fans thought were final. Roberto De Vicenzo's Masters mishap. The most infamous disqualification in golf history wasn't technically a disqualification at all, but it effectively functioned as one. At the 1968 Masters, Argentina's Roberto De Vicenzo shot a final round 65 that should have tied him with Bob Golby, forcing a playoff. However, De Vicenzo's playing partner Tommy Aaron incorrectly marked a 4 instead of the birdie 3 that De Vicenzo actually made on the 17th hole. When De Vicenzo signed his scorecard without catching the error, the rules of golf were clear. The higher score had to stand. Instead of a playoff, Golby was declared the champion, and De Vicenzo was left with one of golf's most famous quotes, "What a stupid I am." Rule 6-6D stated that a player is responsible for the correctness of the score recorded for each hole on his scorecard. Once submitted, if the score for any hole is lower than actually taken, the player is disqualified. If the score is higher than actually taken, the higher score stands. This incident led to significant changes in how professional tournaments handle scoring. Today, most major championships have scoring officials who review cards with players before they sign, and electronic scoring provides an additional safeguard against such errors. The controversy sparked debate about whether the punishment fit the crime. Many argued that a clerical error shouldn't determine a major championship, but traditionalists maintained that the integrity of the game required players to bear responsibility for their scorecards. Craig Stadler's towel incident. At the 1987 San Diego Open, Craig Stadler created one of golf's strangest rules controversies. During the third round, Stadler's ball came to rest under a tree, forcing him to kneel to make the shot. To avoid grass stains on his light-colored pants, he placed a towel on the ground before kneeling. A television viewer called in, claiming this violated the rule against building a stance. Tournament officials agreed, and since Stadler had already signed his third-round scorecard without including the penalty, he was disqualified from the final round. Rule 13-3 prohibited building a stance by moving, bending, or breaking anything growing or fixed. Officials determined that placing the towel constituted building a stance by improving the area of his intended stance. The controversy highlighted the unique aspect of golf where viewers could effectively serve as rules officials. It also raised questions about the definition of building a stance, and whether Stadler's action, which wasn't intended to improve his playing conditions, but merely to keep his pants clean, should have been penalized. The ruling was so controversial that it eventually led to modifications in how the rule is interpreted. Today, players are allowed to use towels or rain gear to keep their clothes dry or clean, provided they don't deliberately build a stance to improve the conditions affecting their stroke. Lexi Thompson's viewer call-in penalty. The 2017 ANA Inspiration featured perhaps the most controversial viewer call-in in golf history. During the final round, Lexi Thompson was assessed a 4-stroke penalty for an incident that occurred in the third round, 2 strokes for incorrectly replacing her ball on the 17th green, moving it approximately 1 inch from its original position, and 2 more for signing an incorrect scorecard. The violation was reported by a television viewer who emailed tournament officials. Thompson, who had been leading by 3 strokes, was informed of the penalty between the 12th and 13th holes of the final round. Despite the devastating news, she rallied to force a playoff, but ultimately lost to So-Yeon Ryu. The controversy centered on 3 issues: the timing of the penalty, nearly 24 hours after the incident, the role of television viewers in officiating, and the severity of the punishment relative to the infraction. Many players and fans felt it was unfair for Thompson to be penalized based on a viewer's email, especially for an infraction that was imperceptible to the naked eye and required high-definition, slow-motion replay to detect. This incident directly led to two significant rule changes. In December 2017, the USGA and R&A eliminated the penalty for signing an incorrect scorecard when the player was unaware of a violation. More importantly, they ended the practice of considering viewer call-ins for potential rules violations, instead assigning one or more officials to monitor video broadcasts to identify potential rules issues. If you're finding these controversial disqualifications fascinating, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now. I'm constantly diving into golf's most dramatic moments and the rules controversies that change the game forever. Drop a comment below telling me which disqualification you think was the most unfair, and I'll share my perspective on whether the rules were applied correctly. Now let's get back to more shocking disqualifications that rocked the golf world. Mark Rowe and Jesper Parnevik's scorecard swap. One of the most bizarre disqualifications in major championship history occurred at the 2003 Open Championship at Royal St. George's. Mark Rowe and Jesper Parnevik were disqualified after the third round when it was discovered they had mistakenly signed each other's scorecards. The players had failed to exchange scorecards at the beginning of the round, resulting in each player recording the other's scores on the wrong card. Despite both players signing for the correct total scores, the fact that they had signed incorrect cards led to their disqualification under Rule 6(6)(d). The disqualification was particularly heartbreaking for Rowe, who had shot a brilliant 67 that would have placed him in contention for the championship in the final round. Instead, he was removed from the tournament, despite having his correct total score properly attested. The incident sparked significant debate about the scorecard rules in golf. Many argued that since both players' scores were correctly recorded and verified, the disqualification was unnecessarily harsh. Others maintained that the integrity of the scoring system required strict adherence to the rules. In response to this and similar incidents, the R&A and USGA later modified the rules to provide some flexibility in scorecard situations, though the fundamental responsibility for signing the correct card remains with the player. Paul Azinger's bunker incident. At the 1991 Doral Ryder Open, Paul Azinger became embroiled in controversy when television cameras caught him improving his lie in a water hazard. Azinger's ball had come to rest against a rock in shallow water. Before playing his shot, he appeared to move several small rocks, potentially improving his lie. When questioned about the incident, Azinger claimed he was only removing loose impediments, which would have been legal in a normal playing area but not in a hazard. The PGA Tour chose not to penalize Azinger during the tournament, accepting his explanation that he was unaware of the specific rule regarding hazards. However, after the tournament concluded, additional video evidence emerged that appeared to contradict Azinger's explanation. Under intense public pressure, Azinger eventually agreed to disqualify himself retroactively, forfeiting his second-place finish and prize money. This unusual self-disqualification after the fact highlighted the unique nature of golf's honor system. In most sports, once a game is completed, the results are final regardless of later evidence. In golf, the principle of integrity sometimes leads to players accepting penalties even after tournaments have concluded. The incident also raised questions about the role of video evidence in golf. The additional footage that led to Azinger's self-disqualification wasn't available to officials during the tournament, creating a situation where the official result changed days after the event ended. Michelle Wie's improper drop. At the 2008 State Farm Classic on the LPGA Tour, 18-year-old Michelle Wie was disqualified after completing her second round, when officials determined she had taken an improper drop during her first round the previous day. Wie had hit a shot into a water hazard on the 15th hole of her first round. After taking a penalty drop, she played her next shot and continued the round. However, a Sports Illustrated reporter later informed LPGA officials that Wie appeared to have dropped the ball closer to the hole than permitted under the rules. After reviewing video evidence, officials confirmed that Wie had dropped the ball approximately 2 inches closer to the hole than her previous position. Since she had already signed her scorecard without including the 2-stroke penalty for an improper drop, she was disqualified from the tournament. The controversy centered on the timing of the disqualification. Wie was informed after completing her second round, when she was in second place and playing exceptionally well. Many questioned why the issue wasn't addressed during the first round when the violation occurred. The incident highlighted the challenges of applying rules consistently in a sport played over vast areas with limited official supervision. It also raised questions about the responsibility of media members in identifying potential rules violations, a role traditionally not part of sports journalism in other games. Padraig Harrington's moving ball. Three-time major champion Padraig Harrington experienced one of the most technical disqualifications in recent golf history at the 2011 Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship. After completing his first round with a solid 65, Harrington was disqualified when a television viewer noticed that his ball had moved slightly as he replaced his marker on the seventh green. High-definition slow-motion replay showed that when Harrington removed his marker, his fingertip accidentally brushed the ball, causing it to move fractionally. Harrington replaced his ball without realizing it had moved, and therefore didn't assess himself a penalty stroke as required by the rules. Since Harrington had already signed his scorecard without including the penalty, he was disqualified under Rule 66 DEI for signing for a lower score than actually taken. What made this disqualification particularly controversial was that the movement was so slight that it was imperceptible to Harrington and could only be detected using enhanced video technology. This incident, along with similar high-definition disqualifications, led directly to the 2016 rules modification known as the Harrington Rule. This change stated that if a player makes a reasonable judgment about certain aspects of the rules, such as determining a spot, point, line, area, or distance, their judgment will be upheld even if video evidence later shows it was wrong. The Harrington disqualification exemplified how technological advances in broadcasting were creating new challenges for golf's self-policing tradition, leading to rules adaptations that better balance the sport's integrity with reasonable expectations of what players can perceive during play. These controversial disqualifications reveal the unique challenges of golf's rule system. Unlike other sports where officials make real-time decisions, golf relies on a combination of player integrity, official oversight, and a complex rulebook that attempts to cover every possible situation. When the system works, it reinforces golf's reputation as a game of honor. When it fails, as in these controversial moments, it exposes the tension between strict adherence to rules and the broader principles of fairness and common sense. The evolution of golf's rules in response to these controversies shows the sport's ability to adapt while maintaining its core values. From eliminating viewer call-ins to providing more flexibility for honest mistakes, these changes aim to make the rules more fair, consistent, and understandable. Perhaps the most important lesson from these controversies is that no rulebook, no matter how comprehensive, can anticipate every situation. The human element, judgment, integrity, and sportsmanship remains essential to golf's identity as a self-governing sport. If you found these controversial disqualifications fascinating, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm constantly diving into golf's most dramatic moments and the rules controversies that change the game forever. Drop a comment below telling me which disqualification you think was the most unfair, and I'll see you in the next video.